Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Talib Al and this is Mastering Politics to Better Understand the World. Now, there's a famous quote by the famous philosopher Plato. He says, "Those who are unable to participate in politics are forced to be ruled by those who are inferior to them." So, the point of this video is to explain to you why it is very important to study politics, to learn the principles of politics so you are not a slave. So the people who are in charge don't fool you into doing stuff that you don't want to do. So the people who are in charge cannot steal your money and cannot take your sons to war and do not put your countries in jeopardy for no good reason. Okay, so the biggest problem nowadays is that most people are reactive rather than proactive when it comes to politics. People watch the news, they see something on social media, or if they think they're really educated, they might go on Twitter and maybe retweet something, or do some angry tweet, or try to educate somebody by replying to his tweet, whatever it is. This is not good enough. Yes, it is good to be on Twitter to some extent, right? But you need the basic level of education, right? Like you need to understand what is politics, what are the responsibilities of politicians, where do politicians get their power from? You need to understand the principles of like separation of state. You need to understand that when the government prints money, it is practically stealing from you. That inflation is a form of taxation. You need to understand that taxation cannot happen without representation, and that when some government just prints money, it is effectively stealing from you and taxing you without your own permission. Okay, so understanding the principles of politics is something that's not optional. Like you cannot be a good active citizen if you don't understand politics. And if you don't understand the basics of politics, then you'll end up a slave, whether you know it or not. If you go to the market, if you start a business and you don't understand the basics of calculus, then you're gonna be losing money. People are gonna be stealing from you, right? Like if you don't understand the basics of calculus, right, and you buy something for, let's say $100, and you give him $500, and they'll give you back 200. You see, like you can easily get advantage. People can take advantage of you if you don't understand the basic principles of anything that you are interacting with. And there's nothing that is more important, nothing that you interact more with than politics, whether you know it or not. Politics has everything to do with your life, with your daily life. Like you go out on the street and your street is not paved well, it's full of potholes, that's part of politics. Like you take the bus and the bus is shitty and it's old and it takes 2 hours to arrive. This is also part of politics. You go to the hospital is bad, you have to wait for 4 hours. That's politics. So everything that you do in your daily life has to do with politics, and you cannot be a free person if you don't understand the basics of politics, if you don't understand your rights, if you don't understand how to demand for your rights. This is not optional anymore. Like yes, back in the days, you might be a peasant living somewhere in I don't know, rural Scotland. You are so far removed from the king that what the king does had little to do with you. So, but nowadays, with the advancement of technology and with big government, everything that the government does is directly connected to you. Everything. It's not like before. So we need to understand politics. We need to learn the basics of politics. You need to be engaged with people who are as interested in politics as you are, who are educated about it, who are doing research, who are learning, and then engage with them and try to learn from them and teach them at the same time. Okay, so we have to create this new generation of citizens in order to preserve democracy, in order to preserve the rule of law. We need to be able to create a new generation of citizens who are able to understand politics, able to judge politicians and their performance properly. Okay, if you just sit at home all day, scrolling on TikTok and getting angry because of some piece of news, right? You're not going anywhere. Like, you are being practically enslaved by the people who are actively engaged in politics. And this is something that Plato has noticed more like than 2000 years ago. Okay, like, you cannot be in a society that pretends at least to be democratic, to be representative of various groups. You cannot be part of this society if you don't properly understand the basics of politics, and you understand your rights, and you understand how to make change in this world, in your own country at least, right? So you need to know how the system works, where does power comes from, how to be able to influence politicians, how to be able to take part of what's happening, even at a small scale. Like, just the fact that you are educated about it will be quite beneficial. Like, many of the politicians, they take advantage of you because you don't understand the principles. Like, when politicians say, we need to tax the rich in order to you are poor because of the rich, and we need to tax the rich. They don't tell you that any government is printing much more money than taxing all the rich combined will bring them. Yeah. So, like, the American government has trillions of dollars in debt. Like, if the American government took all the rich people money, it won't be like 10% of its own debt. So the the language that they use, it's in order to scapegoat somebody. So they want to scapegoat the rich to cover for the fact that their mishandling and mismanagement of the government and the government funds is making you poor and is making your currency, your savings, worth less. Okay? So, like, just keep this in mind and understand that this is unbelievably important. This is not something optional anymore. Okay? So, let me know in the comments below. Give me your ideas. What are the things that you think should be covered? Okay? And if you're interested in politics, I have started a free community on school.com. You can see the link to that in the description below. I want this community to be a place where people can engage in political concepts freely, and they can go and learn from each other, and learn from me, and we can learn from each other. There's going to be lectures, there's going to be discussions, there's going to be weekly Q&A. Take a look at that, and see you next time.